I'm Erin Harner, integrated registered dietitian nutritionist, and today I'm going to show you how to make gingered carrots. When they're all done, they look like this and they are delicious. All right, so let's get started. The first step is to take 4 cups of water and add 2 tablespoons of kosher salt or sea salt. I'm going to do 2 level tablespoons. 1, 2. Next, I'm going to stir it up and just set our saltwater brine aside. The saltwater brine will inhibit the pathogenic bacteria and help with acidity and allow our ferment to really take off. All right, so there's our brine, and I'm just going to set this aside. Next step for our ginger carrots is we're going to take a clean quart-sized mason jar and some carrots. These are organic carrots. I washed them and scrubbed them, but I did not peel them. So what I'm going to do here is just slice these right down the carrot. All right, so our carrots are all chopped up. What I'm going to do now is put these in a dish, and we'll add our ginger. So carrots. Next, what we're going to do is take some ginger, and this is a really big chunk. This I buy in the fall. It grows locally here in upstate New York. And I'm just going to use a microplane to microplane about 1 inch of that ginger. Just one of these little knobs. And you can see this is frozen. I keep it in a bag like this in the freezer, and then it's good anytime you want it. It'll last for a couple years in the deep freezer, no problem. Grate about 1 inch of ginger. And if you'd prefer, you can also slice the ginger into little pieces. So you can just slice it into little chunks and put it in that way if you'd prefer. It doesn't really matter, whatever your personal preference is. All right, so we've got our ginger and our carrots. I'm going to take this and just stir it up a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to grab the 1 quart mason jar. So this is a wide mouth stainless steel canning funnel. In this case, it will prevent me from making a huge mess. So I'm just going to take the spoon and put these carrots and ginger into the canning jar. This is a super simple recipe, incredibly nutritious, really, really good for your gut from a probiotic perspective, but also from the nutrients in the ginger and the carrots themselves. All right, so we've got some ginger carrots in here, almost to the top, but not quite. I left about 1.5 inches of headspace or so. I'm going to take our brine that we made before. Remember, 4 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of sea salt or kosher salt, and just fill it up to cover up the vegetables. Next, I'm going to take a pickling weight and put a pickling weight right over top of that. And then a fermentation airlock and a canning ring, and I'm all done. If you want to help with fermentation and make sure that this works, sometimes with carrots it can be a little tricky to make sure it goes properly just because carrots are fairly high in sugar and sometimes the yeast predominates. One of the tricks that I use is I take a batch of sauerkraut. This is just naked kraut. It's just cabbage and salt. I'm not going to add any of the cabbage to this, but I am going to add about 1 tablespoon of the sauerkraut juice. And what that's going to do is it's just going to kind of nudge our fermentation along a little bit, and that'll settle in. If you wanted to add that to the brine before you poured the water in, you could do that as well. So next I'm just going to take the fermentation airlock on top and a canning ring. And we're going to set this out of direct sunlight for 4 to 5 days. After 4 days or so, you want to try it and just make sure it tastes really crisp and delicious. It should be a little bit sour, have a nice flavor. If it's not quite done, just let it sit for a couple days longer, and you should be good to go. And this is a batch of ginger carrots that has been sitting on our counter for about 5 or 6 days. And let's just take the fermentation weight out and see how they taste. All right. And in this batch, you can see I used large chunks of ginger, and they're pretty delicious to eat, or you can just leave them in the brine. So let's take one of these carrots and see how they turned out. Delicious. Crunchy, tart, ginger, a little bit salty, but really, really satisfies a craving for salt. And also the sweetness of the carrots balances it out beautifully. So one other tip when it comes to ginger carrots that I want to leave you with, and this applies to all fermented foods, is the size that you chop the vegetables matters. So the larger the cut, so these are about 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick carrots. If you wanted to make it go faster, like you wanted it to be more of a kraut, more like a sauerkraut, you can actually make this exact same recipe and just grate the carrots, or you put the carrots through the shredder, part of your food processor, and do the exact same recipe exactly like I just showed you how to do. But what that will do is it will be a different texture, a different consistency, and will actually ferment faster because there's more surface area exposed to the bacteria. So the larger the cut, the longer it takes. So just something to remember when it comes to fermentation.